73% of Americans over 60 drink coffee every single morning. But here's what almost none of them know. The way you're drinking it right now is making your belly fat more stubborn. Not because coffee is bad. Actually, coffee has compounds that should help you burn fat. The problem is what's missing. Your metabolism after 60 doesn't work the same way it did at 40. Your cells have become resistant to insulin. Your mitochondria produce less energy, and your morning coffee, without the right additions, just spikes cortisol and makes everything worse. I've watched this pattern for 15 years. Patients doing everything right, exercising, eating less, but the belly fat won't move. Then we change one thing about their coffee, and within 2 weeks, they notice their clothes fitting differently. Not because of some magic ingredient, because we stopped working against their metabolism and started working with it. After spending years in clinical practice, watching people struggle with the exact same frustration, I realized the answer wasn't more willpower or harder workouts. What I'm about to show you isn't complicated. But the reason your doctor never mentioned it has everything to do with how our medical system works. We're trained to prescribe medications, not to optimize what you're already doing every single day. And that morning drink changes your metabolic state for the next 4 hours. So if you get this wrong at 7 in the morning, you're fighting an uphill battle until lunch. This matters specifically for people over 60 because your body has undergone fundamental metabolic shifts that nobody prepared you for. Your pancreas still produces insulin, but your cells don't respond to it the way they used to. Your mitochondria have slowed down. Your muscle mass has declined, taking your resting metabolism with it. And visceral fat, that stubborn belly fat wrapped around your organs, has become metabolically active tissue that defends itself. It releases hormones that make you hungrier. It creates inflammation that makes insulin resistance worse. It's a cycle that standard advice about eating less and moving more simply cannot break. But strategic additions to something you're already drinking every day can shift your entire metabolic environment before you even think about breakfast. The first addition changes what happens the moment coffee hits your bloodstream, and it costs about $4. Think of your cells like doors with locks. After 60, those locks get rusty. Insulin is the key, but it doesn't turn smoothly anymore. That's insulin resistance. When you add Ceylon cinnamon to your coffee, you're essentially oiling those locks. The compound called cinnamaldehyde mimics insulin activity at the cellular level. It activates the same receptors insulin activates, but through a different pathway. So even if your insulin isn't working efficiently, your cells still open up and accept glucose and fatty acids. This matters specifically for belly fat because visceral adipose tissue, the fat around your organs, is the most insulin-resistant fat in your body. It refuses to release stored energy. But when cinnamon improves that cellular sensitivity, your body finally gets the signal that it can release those fat stores. A study from the University of Michigan Medical School tracked 140 adults with metabolic syndrome. Half added 1 teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon to their morning routine. After 12 weeks, the cinnamon group showed significantly improved waist circumference measurements and fasting glucose levels compared to controls. The key word here is Ceylon cinnamon, not the common cassia variety sold in most grocery stores. Cassia contains high levels of coumarin, which can be problematic for your liver in daily amounts. Add half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon directly to your coffee grounds before brewing, or stir it into your finished coffee. The heat helps release the active compounds. The second addition sounds completely backwards, but it's exactly what your mitochondria need to wake up. You're trying to lose fat, so adding fat to your coffee sounds insane. But here's what most people don't understand about metabolism after 60. Your mitochondria, the energy factories in your cells, have become lazy. They've been running on glucose for decades, and they've forgotten how to efficiently burn fat. MCT oil, medium-chain triglycerides, does something unique. Unlike long-chain fats that require extensive breakdown, MCTs go directly to your liver and convert into ketones within minutes. Ketones are like premium fuel for your cells. When your mitochondria sense ketones in the bloodstream, they upregulate fat-burning enzymes. They switch from glucose-burning mode into fat-burning mode. And here's the critical part. This metabolic switch stays active for hours. So the MCT oil you add to your 7 a.m. coffee is still affecting fat metabolism at 10 a.m., even after you've eaten breakfast. Your body becomes thermogenic. It generates more heat, which requires more energy, which means more calories burned. The paradox is real. Adding fat makes you burn more fat, but only this specific type of fat creates that mitochondrial activation. Research consistently shows that MCT oil increases energy expenditure compared to long-chain fatty acids, specifically targeting abdominal adipose tissue in older adults. Start with 1 teaspoon of MCT oil in your coffee and increase gradually to 1 tablespoon. Taking too much too fast can cause digestive discomfort. The third addition protects you from the one thing that destroys metabolism faster than anything else after 60. Here's the mistake I see constantly. People focus so much on losing weight that they forget what they're actually losing. After 60, when you lose weight, you lose muscle at an accelerated rate. And muscle is your metabolic engine. Every pound of muscle you lose drops your resting metabolism by about 50 calories per day. That means losing 10 pounds of muscle, which happens easily during weight loss after 60, costs you 500 calories of daily burn. You've just made it 500 calories harder to maintain any weight loss. This is why people yo-yo diet. They lose weight, lose muscle, their metabolism crashes. They gain it all back. Collagen peptides in your morning coffee changes this equation. Collagen is the most abundant protein in your body, making up your connective tissue, tendons, and muscle structure. After 60, your natural collagen production has dropped by nearly 30%. When you supplement with collagen peptides, especially combined with the caffeine in coffee, you provide the amino acids your body needs to preserve lean tissue during fat loss. The glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline in collagen are specifically used for muscle repair and maintenance. Studies show that collagen supplementation combined with resistance exercise significantly improves body composition in older adults, preserving muscle while losing fat. Add 1 to 2 scoops, 10 to 20 grams, of unflavored collagen peptides to your coffee. It dissolves completely and doesn't change the taste. The fourth addition is the one that creates a sensation you can actually feel working within 20 minutes. There's a reason you feel warm after eating spicy food. That heat you feel is called thermogenesis, your body literally producing heat, which requires burning calories. Cayenne pepper contains capsaicin, a compound that activates specific receptors called TRPV1 channels throughout your body. When these channels activate, they trigger a cascade of metabolic responses. Your sympathetic nervous system activates slightly. Your core temperature rises. Your body increases oxygen consumption. All of this requires energy, which means calorie burning. But here's the specific finding that matters for people over 60 with stubborn belly fat. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed 162 participants who added capsaicin to their morning routine. After 12 weeks, those using capsaicin showed a 23% greater reduction in abdominal fat compared to the control group, even with identical caloric intake. 23%. That's not marginal. That's significant. The mechanism appears to be capsaicin's specific effect on visceral adipose tissue, where it increases lipolysis, the breakdown of stored fat into free fatty acids that can be burned for energy. For people over 60 whose baseline metabolic rate has dropped, this thermogenic boost can make the difference between maintaining weight and actually losing it. The feeling of warmth you experience after adding cayenne to your coffee is literally your metabolism increasing. That's not discomfort, that's the process working. Start with a tiny pinch of cayenne pepper, about 1/16 of a teaspoon, mixed into your coffee. You can gradually increase to 1/8 teaspoon as your tolerance builds. If this is making sense so far, just tap that subscribe button. You're not going to find this perspective in most doctors' offices. The fifth edition is the one that changed everything for a patient who thought she'd tried everything. Margaret was 67, a retired school teacher from Portland, and when she came to my office, she was exhausted. She'd been eating low-fat foods for 20 years, exercising 5 days a week, and her belly fat had not budged since menopause. She said something I'll never forget. "I feel like I'm being punished for doing everything right." I explained something her previous doctors never mentioned. Eating fat doesn't make you fat. Chronic insulin elevation makes you fat, and the low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet she'd been following for 2 decades was keeping her insulin constantly elevated. When you add grass-fed butter or ghee to your coffee, you're consuming a specific type of fat called butyrate. Butyrate is a short-chain fatty acid that has profound effects on insulin regulation and inflammation. It signals your body that it's in a fed state, which prevents the cortisol spike that black coffee alone triggers in many people over 60. High cortisol tells your body to store belly fat. By blunting that cortisol response with quality fat, you remove the metabolic signal that defends visceral fat. Margaret started adding 1 tablespoon of grass-fed ghee to her morning coffee. Within 3 weeks, she noticed her wedding ring was looser. After 8 weeks, she'd lost 4 inches from her waist. Not because the butter was magic, but because we finally stopped her metabolism from working against her every single morning. Grass-fed butter contains 5 times more conjugated linoleic acid than conventional butter, a fatty acid that's been shown to reduce body fat accumulation, specifically in the abdominal region. Add 1 tablespoon of grass-fed butter or ghee to hot coffee and blend it for 15 seconds. The emulsification creates a creamy texture and ensures proper absorption. Now, here's what ties all 5 additions together, and it's the part that determines whether this works or completely fails. Everything I've just described works through specific metabolic pathways that are time-dependent. Your cortisol naturally peaks within 30 minutes of waking. Your insulin sensitivity is highest in the morning. Your body's circadian clock makes you more thermogenic in the first half of the day. This is why timing matters. If you drink this enhanced coffee at 10 a.m. after you've already eaten a carbohydrate-heavy breakfast, you've missed the metabolic window. Your insulin is already elevated. Your cortisol has already spiked and crashed. The fat-burning signals these additions create won't have the same impact because your body is already in storage mode. The protocol works specifically because you're drinking this within 30 minutes of waking before eating anything else. This combination, Ceylon cinnamon improving insulin sensitivity, MCT oil activating fat-burning pathways, collagen protecting muscle mass, Cayenne increasing thermogenesis, and grass-fed butter preventing cortisol spikes, creates a metabolic environment where your body has no choice but to burn stored fat for energy. But that environment only exists if you set it up before you introduce food. Once you eat, especially carbohydrates, the insulin response changes everything. This is why the protocol isn't just about what you add. It's about when you create this specific metabolic state, in that crucial first hour of your day when your body is deciding what fuel source to use for the next 4 to 6 hours. Your metabolic flexibility, your body's ability to switch between burning glucose and burning fat, is highest in the morning after an overnight fast. That's the window we're targeting. Drink this enhanced coffee within 30 minutes of waking, at least 30 minutes before eating any solid food. This timing is non-negotiable for maximum fat-burning effect. There's one question I get constantly about this protocol, and the answer surprises people. People ask, doesn't adding butter and MCT oil break my fast? Technically, yes, you're consuming calories. But metabolically, no. You're not breaking the fat-burning state that fasting creates. Here's the distinction that matters. What breaks a fast in a way that hurts your goals is anything that spikes insulin significantly. Carbohydrates spike insulin. Protein, in moderate amounts, raises insulin moderately. But pure fats, especially MCT oil and butter, cause virtually no insulin response. Your body stays in a fat-burning, ketone-producing state. So the wrong approach is drinking black coffee, feeling shaky and irritable from the cortisol spike, then breaking down and eating something carb-heavy by 9:30 because you can't function. That's the version that fails. You've spiked cortisol, then spiked insulin, and you've gotten none of the benefits of fasting. The right approach is this enhanced coffee, which provides sustained energy, prevents muscle breakdown with collagen, keeps you in fat-burning mode with MCTs and butter, and allows you to comfortably extend your eating window until noon or later if you choose. You get all the benefits of fasting, autophagy, insulin sensitivity, fat burning, without the cortisol crash that makes people fail. The evidence is consistent. This type of enhanced coffee supports metabolic health during extended morning fasts far better than black coffee alone, especially for people over 60 whose stress hormone regulation is already compromised. If your goal is fat loss and metabolic health, maintaining stable blood sugar and low insulin matters far more than zero-calorie fasting. This protocol achieves both. If you practice intermittent fasting, use this enhanced coffee as your morning fuel and delay your first meal until you're genuinely hungry, usually 4 to 6 hours later. Now let me show you the 4 mistakes that will completely cancel out everything I just explained. I see people make these constantly, and then they wonder why nothing changes. First mistake, using regular cassia cinnamon instead of Ceylon cinnamon. Cassia contains high coumarin levels that can stress your liver with daily use, and it doesn't have the same insulin-sensitizing potency. You're adding the wrong compound and potentially creating a new problem. Second mistake, adding sugar, honey, or flavored syrups. Even 1 teaspoon of sugar creates an insulin spike that completely overrides the fat-burning signals from everything else you added. You've just turned a thermogenic drink into a fat storage drink. If you need sweetness, use stevia or monk fruit extract, zero insulin response. Third mistake, using conventional grain-fed butter. The entire fatty acid profile is wrong. You're missing the CLA and butyrate that grass-fed butter provides. The omega-6 to omega-3 ratio in conventional butter is inflammatory, which works against everything we're trying to accomplish. Fourth mistake, drinking this coffee after you've already eaten breakfast. Once you've consumed carbohydrates, your insulin is elevated and your body is in storage mode. The metabolic window is closed. This protocol specifically works because you're setting up a fat-burning environment before introducing food. Here's exactly how to prepare this coffee, step by step, with the precise amounts that work. Brew 8 to 12 ounces of your regular coffee. Use quality beans if possible. Mold toxins in cheap coffee can increase inflammation, which works against fat loss. While it's still hot, add half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon, 1 tablespoon of MCT oil, 1 tablespoon of grass-fed butter or ghee, 1 scoop of unflavored collagen peptides, 10 grams, and 1/16 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. If cayenne feels too intense at first, start with just a tiny pinch. Blend everything together for 15 seconds in a regular blender or use an immersion blender. This emulsifies the fats and creates a creamy, latte-like texture. Do not just stir. Blending is essential for proper absorption and digestion. Drink this within 30 minutes of waking up on an empty stomach. Wait at least 30 minutes before eating solid food. If you're practicing intermittent fasting, you can comfortably wait 4 to 6 hours before your first meal. Days 1 to 3, you'll notice sustained energy without the coffee crash. Your hunger signals will feel more controlled. Week 1, you may notice less bloating and your clothes fitting slightly differently around the waist. Week 2, energy levels stabilize further, and mental clarity typically improves. Most patients report visible changes in body composition around the 10 to 14-day mark. Month 1. If you're consistent with this protocol and not sabotaging it with the mistakes I mentioned, you should see measurable changes in waist circumference. Many of my patients lose 2 to 4 inches in the first month. I want to tell you about Robert, 71 years old, retired engineer from Austin. He came to me 8 months ago, frustrated because his doctor told him belly fat at his age was just something to accept. Robert had high blood pressure, prediabetes, and 62 extra pounds, most of it around his middle. He'd been drinking black coffee every morning for 40 years. We made one change, this enhanced coffee protocol, exactly as I described it. Nothing else changed at first. Within 2 weeks, Robert called me because his morning blood sugar readings had dropped 20 points. After 6 weeks, his pants were loose. After 4 months, he'd lost 31 pounds and 4 inches from his waist. His A1C dropped from 6.3 to 5.6. His doctor reduced his blood pressure medication. Robert said something that stuck with me. I can't believe the answer was this simple. I can't believe nobody told me this 10 years ago. That's exactly why I make these videos. Because the information exists, but the system doesn't deliver it to the people who need it most. If you know someone over 60 who's struggling with stubborn belly fat despite doing everything right, share this with them. Send it to a parent, a spouse, a friend who needs to hear that their metabolism isn't broken, it just needs the right support. And if you want more protocols like this, subscribe, because this is what we do here. We translate the science into action you can take tomorrow morning. Listen to what your body tells you as you try this approach. Your metabolism is talking. Are you listening?